Okay, today on Gear and Review, the amp I want to take a look at is the Fender Hot Rod Deville Michael Landau version. I took a while with this amp before I decided to shoot the review on it. I've actually had it for about 3 months. And the reason being is I wanted to make sure that I did a really adequate, honest appraisal of it. Because to be honest, I've tried in the past. I've tried the Hot Rod DeVille. I've tried the Hot Rod Deluxe, the 410 versions, the 212 versions, and and I've tried all the different models that they've released. The original didn't have the greatest gain circuit, so they called themselves retooling the gain circuit, and they re-released it again. And just to be honest, the hot rod series in general never really appealed to me. I never liked the gain channels on them, and I always felt like the rest of the amp was just kind of okay, but it was nothing that really, nothing that ever really moved me. I've owned a couple of them. Of course, another one of those buy because I want to like it, buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it. Because all the reports you ever read on the hot rod series is it's the workhorse um, type of amplifier. It's the amplifier that when people go on gigs where there's a back line, they kind of breathe a sigh of relief when they see uh, one of the hot rod series in the back line, because uh, it's just, like I said, it's just supposed to be a really good go-to amp. And like I said, I just never gravitated to it. But then I heard about the Michael Landau version, and that really, as far as on paper, it really kind of started to speak to me. Um, the first things that I liked about it was the fact that um, Fender changed the type of speaker that was used in it. I don't honestly. Yeah, this guitar's input is not acting happy today. Um, the If I'm not mistaken, the originals had, I want to say, Jensen speakers in it, which me and Jensen, I've never really been a big fan of Jensen speakers anyway. So the first upgrade that they did to this is they put Celestion V-style speakers in it. I find the V-style speakers work a lot better with the distortion pedals, as far as kind of like really delivering a more authentic British style crunch when using that style of distortion pedal or overdrive unit. Um, the other really cool thing they did is they took the gain circuit completely out of this amplifier. So basically what you have is you have two clean channels. Now, the first clean channel has a switchable bright switch on it. And then the second channel has a switchable boost. Excuse me. Now, the boost isn't really like putting a tube screamer on or anything, but um, to my ear, and I know that no one will probably agree to this, but to my ear, it's more like um, putting some sort of clean boost, or like an EP booster or something like that, cranked up just a little bit. Not enough for say distortion, but just a really solid clean boost with that adds in. Um, there is a little bit of a low mid boost to it as well. But it works really. I mean, it works really well. I really like it. Um, has an effects loop, which I am currently not using in my current setup. I've been playing um, with my pedal board straight through the front end, but it does have an effects loop, um, and it has built-in reverb. Now, for the sake of this review, the only thing that is going into this amp is going from my guitar into a TC Electronics Polytuner, and then from that into a Friedman BE Overdrive, and then there are no other pedals in the signal whatsoever, and I'm using the onboard reverb, spring reverb. It's not a digital reverb, spring reverb inside the amp. Honestly, I believe that those are pretty much the features. The two channels. If you're familiar with the Deville or the Deluxe, then you know that the two channels share low, mids. I mean, bass, treble, and mids are shared. Then there's a universal. I believe. Let me check. Make sure I'm saying that right. Yes, universal presence and a universal reverb. You also have two inputs. You have a regular input, and then you have a padded input. The padded input would be good for use if you wanted to obtain a really good clean, and you have you have really high output pickups, and you want to lessen the likelihood of breakup. Then that would be good. The second input's good for that. I find on a lot of amps, not necessarily this one, but on a lot of amps that have dual inputs like that, I tend to like the padded input better, just because I usually like there's a certain something it does to the way that the distortion reacts that I like. But actually in this amp, I prefer the unpadded input one, the most. What else to say about it? It takes pedals really well. That was one of the specific things. I know they did some other stuff as far as the layout of the electronics on the inside, but that was another thing that they did, that they retooled the front end to be more or better. I won't say more, because from what I hear, the other hot rods and deluxes are very receptive to pedals, but this is supposed to be tooled to be even more receptive, to be basically this amp is built primarily to be a pedal platform. So that being said, I'll give you a little idea. I'm also using today my Ibanez RJ, I think it's an 8570 J Custom. We're going to be in the fourth position, so we're going to be using basically the back coil of this and this coil for our clean, but and let's see. Let's turn the presence up a little bit. More treble. I tend to like my sound a little dark, so I'll try to. So it does have a really good full sound. It's not a thin amp, And then it has a very nice reverb, as you can also hear. so you can hear how clean it is with the humbucker. Here's the bridge pickup. It's responsive. Of course, if that's too much, just hit the volume a little bit. That's a pretty hot pickup. Both channels are identical, so that's channel 1, channel 2, no difference. Now this is channel 1 with the bright. And channel 2 without the bright is. Now what that allows you to do is, that gives you a couple of options. One, you can set up channel 1 to be your main sound, and you can set, because channel 1 and channel 2 have independent volumes, you can set channel 2 to then be a louder version of channel 1, allowing you to have a little bit of volume boost, and then you can use the boost function to give yourself a third volume leap. That's one way the amp could be used. The way that I like to use it, though, personally, is I like to use the first channel with the bright on. Now, mind you, the bright only works on one channel, so you can put the bright on and just leave it. So I like to use channel 1 for my cleans with the bright switch in. And then I like to use channel 2, which is darker, because it doesn't have the bright on, and more fuller. I like to use the second channel with my overdrive, without the bright. Then Then, if I want to kick it up just a little bit more, or I want to thicken it up a little bit more, then I hit the boost function. And now it sounds like... I mean, basically, that is the Fender Hot Rod Deville Michael Landau in a nutshell. It's a quick and easy video because, well, it's a very basic, simple amplifier. The things to note about it are, it sounds really good. It has a very viable clean. It's a great pedal platform. It takes distortion boxes well. It sounds like it's putting out less bass, but that's mainly because of how I have it set up. Because I have it sitting on a guitar stand. Typically, amplifiers put off a much better, more detailed low end if it's setting flat on the floor. But I've got it up on the stand because I'm currently working on my pedal board, and that's where my pedal board is being stored down here. So if I had to play devil's advocate and give it a negative, the one negative would be, I think if they could have shaved 10 to 15 pounds off of the overall product. Now, don't ask me how they would have done that, but I mean, I know companies like DV, companies like DV Mark and stuff. That is their bread and butter and claim to fame is that they make amplifiers and rigs that are easy on the back, and I can attest after taking this to a practice and carrying it down 2 flights of steps, it is not the lightest amplifier. It's not the heaviest, but it's not the lightest. I'm not exactly sure what it weighs in at. I mean, it doesn't weigh as much as a twin, but like I said, then again, that doesn't make it light. I think the wattage complement is perfect. I tend to be a bigger fan of somewhere between 30 and 50 watts. I think that's the magic spot. I think 100 watts in today's society is just overkill. Not There are very few people who are actually playing in situations where a 100-watt amp is remotely necessary. Um, I think you could do most gigs with 20 to 30 watts is more than enough. I won't even say it's like a little is enough. It's more than enough. And like I said, 100 watts is just overkill by any stretch of the imagination. The only other thing I would change, the speakers. I like the V12s. I do. But I'm more of a fan of mix match speakers, because I think that you get more tonal complexity. So I'm a big fan of the my two favorite combinations is a vintage 30 and a G12 75, or an Eminence Governor and a Wizard. I think those just I think that just tonally produces a more complex sound. That is the only really things I could say about it. Is the weight. Weight is probably the only thing that I could come up with as a negative. It comes with the foot switch. Let me throw that in or two. The amp does come with the foot switch. Let me get that up here so you can see. Comes with the foot switch. The things that are foot switchable are the channel and the boost. You can't foot switch the reverb on and off, and you cannot foot switch the bright switch on and off. But you can foot switch the boost, and obviously you can change channels. And it's a pretty rugged looking foot switch. It's a 6L6 based amp. Like I said, 6L6, 40 watts. The effects loop works great. I don't normally use the effects loop on clean amps. I typically only use the effects loop when I am running an amp using the onboard gain, because I always want my time-based effects to come after the distortion. But when I'm using pedals, I don't need to use the effects loop, and I think it works just fine that way. Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I've been Gillen H2O. This has been the Fender Hot Rod Deville ML version, Michael Landau.